Good evening. Today is Thursday, October 1st, 2020. I now call this Fairfield City School District Board of Education work session to order. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Here.
Mr. Birding?
Present.
Mrs. Gundrum? Here. Mrs. Shorter?
Here.
Okay, would you please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody. Our first item on our agenda is Superintendent's recommendations and reports. I'll turn it over to Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Birding. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Martin to cover the items listed under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, Mr. Birding, and members of the board. I have several items for you this evening under Personnel Professional. Item number 1, resignation, letter A. Item 2, extracurricular resignations for the 2021 school year. Item 3, an unpaid leave of absence, letter A. Item 4, employment, letter A, extracurriculars for the 2021 school year. And item B is a substitute teacher for the 2021 school year. That concludes the items I have for your consideration this evening under Personnel Professional.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. At this time, I will entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Heard Mr. Begley and Mrs. Shorter. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum? Yes. Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.
This time, I'd like to ask Mr. Penny to cover the items listed under Personnel Support.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Birding, members of the board, I have the following items for your consideration this evening under Personnel Support. Under item number 1, resignations, letters A through C. Under item number 2, unpaid leave of absence, letter A. Under item number 3, employment, letters A through L. This concludes the items I have for your consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Penny. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept those recommendations.
So moved.
Second.
Heard Mr. Begley and Mrs. Shorter. Any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Lane, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Begley?
Yes.
Mrs. Shorter?
Yes.
Mrs. Gundrum? Yes. Mr. Birding?
Yes, motion passes.